The world of work is changing at a speed that feels kind of dizzying right now.
It really is.
You hear experts saying things like, a massive percentage of the jobs predicted for 2030 don't even exist yet.
Yeah, it really is like living through a compressed industrial revolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so much of that velocity is powered by the incredible leap forward in artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. So this deep dive is all about grappling with that. How is AI fundamentally reshaping specific areas we're looking, particularly at content creation here?
Mm.
And what does that ripple effect mean for the wider world of work, for how we trust information, and even for how, say, governments function?
Right. So we've gathered a stack of sources for you for this exploration, articles from places like UX Matters and the ADB Institute, some research reports, and even perspectives pulled from a real-world online discussions forum.
Think of these sources as your raw material. Our mission really is to slice through them, pull out the most important insights, find the surprising facts, and give you a clear picture of this complex, fast-moving landscape without, burying you in jargon.
Okay, let's dive into that first stack of sources and see what they tell us. Where do we even begin unpacking this?
How about content creation? Seems like a good place to start.
Good idea. It's tangible.
Yeah, the scale is huge.
Yeah.
It seems like there are over 200 million content creators globally today,
Wow.
and they're all facing this relentless pressure to churn out fresh, high-quality stuff constantly.
That demand is intense, right?
Yeah.
And the deadlines are always tight. This is really where generative AI, or Gen AI,
Mm-hmm.
alongside related technologies like natural language processing and machine learning, really enters the picture.
Mm.
The sources definitely highlight that it's like fundamentally changing the game for creators.
They're making things faster, more streamlined.
Exactly. Faster and more streamlined.
Okay, but how does AI actually do that? Is there a sort of universal process it follows when it's handling content?
There's a conceptual model, yeah. You can think of it like the AI's fundamental learning loop when handling data. It starts with input,
Pulling in data.
right? Pulling information from vast sources. Then comes processing, where it crunches that data, finds patterns.
Okay.
Next is outcomes, where it actually generates text, images, whatever content, based on those patterns. It's essentially predicting what should come next, or fulfilling a prompt.
Got it.
And if the outcome isn't quite right or doesn't align with the goal, it requires adjustments, tweaking its internal algorithms.
Uh-huh.
And this whole cycle is under constant assessment, refining itself over time. It's learning.
Okay, got it. So it's this continuous loop of learning and creation. So when AI is plugged into that workflow, what are the most tangible benefits creators are seeing, according to these sources?
Well, the sources are pretty clear on this. AI's core promise to creators isn't just raw speed. It's becoming a tireless co-pilot, sort of handling the 80% of mundane tasks.
Right.
So you can focus on the 20% that's truly creative.
That sounds appealing. Like, what kind of mundane tasks are we talking about?
Things like generating outlines, drafting introductions and conclusions, even spinning up multiple versions of social media posts or, say, product descriptions from a single piece of content.
Right.
The AI does this incredibly fast.
And the sources suggest it can actually cut down research time quite a bit, too.
Exactly. By quickly scanning and suggesting relevant info, stats, sources, it can potentially cut research time by half. That's huge.
Yeah.
Plus, for anyone who's ever stared at a blank page, writer's block.
Oh, yeah.
AI tools can offer creative prompts, variations, topic suggestions to help blast through that. It also automates tasks like scheduling social media posts or formatting content to specific style guides, stuff that just eats up human time.
So it's freeing up time, that's clear.
Oh, true.
Does it also make the content itself better? Or maybe more consistent?
Absolutely. That's a big point. AI algorithms are designed to reduce human errors, catch grammar mistakes, typos, and perhaps most importantly for maintaining a brand or, a publication's voice. Ensure a consistent style and tone across different pieces,
Right.
reinforcing that identity.
And what about personalization? Can AI help tailor content for different audiences?
Yes, and this is a big one for engagement and marketing ROI. AI analytics can look at vast amounts of data on user demographics, interests, how they interact with content,
Right.
allowing creators to tailor what they produce for specific segments. In journalism, for example, one source mentioned AI helping identify reader preferences to suggest content tailored to their specific interests.
That makes sense for engagement. And what about just getting found in the first place, like search optimization? SEO.
AI is a massive help there, too.
Yeah.
It can analyze huge data sets for keyword research,
Okay.
helping creators understand what terms people are searching for and how to structure their content optimally to rank higher in search results. That boosts visibility, organic traffic. It can even suggest headlines based on trending terms.
Hmm. And thinking globally, what about reaching people who speak different languages? Translation.
Yeah, AI's natural language processing capabilities allow for surprisingly accurate and, importantly, culturally relevant translation. It can understand nuances like slang and idioms,
Really?
yeah, which helps break down those language barriers and lets content reach global markets effectively. A source specifically mentioned AI being used as a translation tool in cross-border journalism, which is fascinating.
Wow. So from the initial idea all the way through creation, optimization, translation, distribution,
Hmm.
AI touches almost every step.
Pretty much.
The sources also pointed to some specific tools, right?
They did, yeah. ChatGPT gets mentioned for brainstorming and generating outlines,
Sure, makes sense.
though with a really critical warning, and this came up strongly. You cannot rely on it for factual accuracy.
Right. Absolutely critical.
You must double-check everything with verifiable sources. It's great for sparking ideas or maybe summarizing, but not for reporting facts as is.
That definitely resonates with my own experience using it. What other tools came up?
In video AI was highlighted for video creation from text prompts. It has features like automated scene detection, even voice cloning.
Okay.
Jasper was noted as a strong ChatGPT alternative, apparently with a useful brand voice feature for consistency.
Interesting.
For visuals, Midjourney was mentioned as a graphics generator, and Canva has integrated AI for design templates and layout help.
And audio. Anything for podcasters like us.
Podcastle came up for audio and video recording. It offers AI features to cut silence, suggest trims, minimize noise, and yes, even voice cloning.
Wow.
In journalism examples, they mentioned AI generating images from text, creating avatars, producing graphics, even helping create interactive content or optimize news distribution. It's quite the toolkit.
It really is a comprehensive set of capabilities. So for you, the listener, the insight here seems to be that these tools, as presented in the sources, aren't necessarily about taking away the core creative act, but maybe more about offloading the repetitive, less valuable parts, potentially amplifying your output and reach.
That's certainly the picture painted by the efficiency gains, yeah.
But, and this is a big but, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. For all this power and efficiency, these sources reveal a significant fundamental challenge.
Yes, and the consensus across the sources is pretty clear on this. AI cannot be free of bias.
Why is that? Isn't it just code and data? How does bias get in?
Well, the fundamental reason is that AI models, particularly the large language models that are so powerful now, they learn from massive data sets created by humans.
Okay.
We're talking billions upon billions of words from books, articles, websites, online forums, you name it.
Right, the internet, essentially.
Pretty much.
Right.
And if those human-created sources contain biases, which, let's face it, they inevitably do, reflecting societal biases related to gender, race, culture, politics, religion, the AI will inherit them.
Inherit them.
And not just inherit, but often amplify them through its algorithms.
So it's less garbage in, garbage out, and maybe more like biased data in, amplified bias out.
That's a really good way to put it, exactly. The sources point to the biases embedded in the training data itself, but also things like algorithmic design choices. And even how users, like you or me, phrase our prompts can trigger biased outputs.
Can you give us some specific examples from these sources? Because it feels a bit abstract until you see the real-world findings.
Absolutely. One source, titled The Dark Side of Language Models, was particularly striking on this. With GPT-3, they documented clear gender bias.
How so?
Showing how it frequently associated words like nurse with her and CEO with he. Now, this isn't just a word game, right? This kind of bias, if it gets baked into AI tools used for hiring or writing job descriptions, can perpetuate real-world stereotypes and discrimination.
That's a very clear consequence.
Yeah.
What about other forms of bias the sources mention? Racial bias.
Definitely. Racial bias has been found in models like BERT. Experiments analyzing sentiment show that sentences containing names commonly associated with African Americans were more likely to be given negative sentiment scores compared to sentences with European names.
Wow.
And this reflects biases present in the historical and online text the AI trained on. It could lead to discriminatory outcomes in areas like, say, loan applications or risk assessments.
That's deeply concerning. And what about conversational AIs, chatbots and the like?
Models like Dialog GPT, which are designed specifically for conversation, have been shown to generate toxic or offensive responses
Why?
because they learned from unmoderated online discussions, the Wild West of the internet forums.
Right.
So if prompted about certain political groups, for instance, they might produce inflammatory statements. That's a huge liability for businesses using AI chatbots for customer interaction.
So it goes beyond social bias into potentially harmful geopolitical or even religious territory?
Yes, exactly. A model called XLNet was found to favor dominant Western narratives when asked about global events, potentially presenting very one-sided views in AI-generated summaries or educational content. And Roberta, another model, demonstrated religious bias, sometimes associating certain religions with negative stereotypes like violence.
Yeah.
That could impact things like content moderation decisions made by AI.
Wow. These aren't just minor glitches, are they? They seem to mirror and potentially worsen significant societal divisions.
They really do.
How does all this connect to the broader crisis we seem to be facing around information integrity today? Misinformation, disinformation.
It exacerbates it dramatically. Multiple sources highlighted this. AI exponentially increases the risk, and importantly, the scale of spreading mis- and disinformation.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. If news organizations, for example, rely purely on AI to generate articles without human oversight or proper fact-checking,
Yeah.
they could easily publish false information based on biased or just plain inaccurate training data very quickly.
I can definitely see how that rapid generation, combined with inherent bias, becomes a really potent mix for spreading falsehoods.
Exactly. And then there's also the increased potential for highly realistic manipulated audiovisual content, deepfakes. AI makes those much easier to create now.
Right.
And AI can also help manage vast networks of fake social media profiles and bots, rapidly distributing false content across platforms, amplifying the spread.
So AI makes creating and spreading false information easier, faster, and more convincing. Given these inherent biases baked into the models, how do we even begin to address this? It sounds like a massive challenge.
It is. It's a multi-layered challenge requiring constant effort. The sources point to a few key things. First, the need for better, more diverse, and more representative training data to begin with.
Okay. Better inputs.
Right. Then regular bias audits are crucial to actually identify and quantify these issues in existing models. Algorithmic adjustments can sometimes help mitigate certain biases, but most importantly, human oversight and continuous monitoring are essential. We can't just set and forget.
And transparency.
Absolutely. Developers need to be transparent about how their models are built and what their known limitations and biases are.
It sounds like an ongoing process, definitely not a one-time fix.
It has to be.
Well,
And for you, the listener, the insight here is probably to recognize that the information you encounter daily, whether it's generated or just influenced by AI, likely carries these hidden biases.
yeah.
It really underscores the critical importance of exercising critical thinking and developing strong media literacy skills in this new landscape.
Yeah.
You have to question what you see and read.
Absolutely. Okay, stepping back a bit from just content creation, AI is a central part of an even larger transformation, isn't it? Often called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This is where technologies like AI, robotics, automation, they're fundamentally reshaping the entire world of work.
Yeah, the sources identify this whole confluence of factors driving these changes in the global labor market. It's not just AI.
Like what else?
Things like shifting demographics, aging populations in some countries, youth bulges in others, the lingering impacts of public health crises like the pandemic, growing social demands for flexible work arrangements, for gender equity,
Right.
plus the transition to a green economy and the escalating importance of cybersecurity. These also require rapid changes in workforce skills. It's all happening at once.
And within this broader shift, the sources seem to highlight three key trends really stand out regarding the future of work.
They did. The first is the acceleration of the gig economy.
Okay.
Digital platforms and, recent global events have really pushed flexible project-based work into the mainstream. One source noted this kind of work has increased by over 40% in recent years.
40%, that's substantial.
It is, and while it offers autonomy, which many people value, it also raises complex questions about job security, benefits, worker protections, the traditional safety nets.
So, more freedom for some, maybe, but potentially less stability. What's the second big trend?
Automation and potential job displacement. This is the one that gets a lot of headlines.
Understandably.
AI and robotics are increasingly capable of taking over tasks that are routine, repetitive. One statistic from a source was particularly striking. Up to 40% of working hours across industries in the U.S. could be impacted by large language models, specifically.
40%, that feels huge. Why LLMs specifically, and why such a high number?
Well, because language-based tasks make up a really large portion of the work done in the U.S. economy, something like 62% of total working hours, according to the source.
Wow, okay.
And the analysis suggests that 65% of those language tasks have a high potential to be automated or significantly augmented by LLMs.
So it's the prevalence of language tasks in modern work.
Exactly. Though it's worth noting that roles involving a high degree of human interaction or non-routine physical work, like many jobs in the care economy, are generally expected to be less impacted.
Okay, so language-heavy routine tasks are particularly vulnerable. That makes sense. What's the third major trend reshaping work?
Skill disruption. As automation handles more of the routine work, the demand is rapidly shifting towards skills that are harder for AI to replicate.
The human stuff.
Pretty much. Things like critical thinking, complex problem solving, creativity, innovation, emotional intelligence.
So the uniquely human capabilities become more valuable.
Precisely. The sources mention something called a skill disruption index, which tries to quantify this shift.
How does that work?
Well, for instance, a technical writer's job, which includes some repetitive tasks, but also requires complex analysis and communication, might have a disruption score of 69 on this index.
Okay.
A musician or singer whose work relies heavily on unique creative expression and emotional connection scores lower, maybe along 27.
Lower disruption, higher human element.
Right. But then a data engineer working with cutting-edge, constantly evolving technology scores higher, maybe 100, reflecting the need for continuous advanced technical learning just to keep up.
It really underscores that need for continuous learning, doesn't it? The sources call this developing composite capabilities.
Yes, exactly. Integrating different types of skills, technical, cognitive, social, emotional, to adapt to new challenges and roles.
Yep.
It's not just about one skill anymore.
And the online discussion forum you mentioned, did that reflect this?
It did, particularly around creative writing.
Hmm.
There was real tension. Some people felt strongly that AI could only ever produce soulless crap, was the phrase used.
Okay. Direct.
While others believed advanced AI would eventually replicate human nuance, or maybe more pragmatically, that it would simply become another tool writers use, like a word processor.
Right.
But there was a strong underlying sense that while maybe formulaic writing could be automated, the deeply creative, emotionally resonant work would remain a human domain.
That makes intuitive sense. AI learns from existing patterns. It doesn't necessarily feel or generate entirely novel consciousness, at least not yet.
Right, and this whole transformation of work, it has really complex implications for societal inequality. That came up too.
How so? Could it make things worse?
It could, potentially. AI could exacerbate disparities by giving larger companies market dominance through leveraged technology, widening the gap.
But couldn't it also help reduce inequality in some ways?
The sources suggest it does have that potential, yes. AI could democratize access to high-quality resources for small businesses or underserved communities.
Like what kind of resources?
Think about personalized learning experiences tailored to individual student needs, or AI tools assisting farmers in remote areas with crop analysis, translation tools breaking down language barriers for commerce or information access, even platforms offering free grammar and writing correction.
Okay, so there's potential on both sides.
Exactly. The outcome is complicated and depends heavily on how the technology is developed, how it's regulated, how it's deployed. Labor institutions and governments have a huge role to play in promoting equity through fair practices and access to training.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but the broader societal and governmental context it operates within.
Yeah.
And for you listening, it's probably worth considering where your own skills sit in this evolving picture and really embracing the idea that adaptability through continuous learning is going to be key.
Absolutely essential.
Speaking of governments and broader context, these sources really emphasize that public institutions themselves have to anticipate and adapt to these changes,
Yeah.
or risk becoming outdated, maybe even obsolete, in an AI-driven future.
That's a crucial insight. Governments can't just sit back. They need to be proactive in leveraging digital tools to modernize public services and meet the evolving needs of citizens.
What are some specific strategies that were highlighted for the public sector in the sources?
Well, promoting continuous learning within public institutions themselves is vital. Investing in lifelong learning and upskilling initiatives for government employees is essential. given how quickly job competencies are changing.
Right, they need to adapt too.
Exactly. Investing in something called digital public infrastructure, or DPI,
Hmm.
is also highlighted as critical.
DPI, what exactly is that?
It refers to digital systems and services built for the public good, things like digital identity systems, data exchange platforms, or payment infrastructure. They need to be accessible, scalable, and work together.
Okay. Are there examples?
Yes, India's UPI payment system was cited as a prime example.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It enables instant 247 bank transfers just via mobile phone. It has simplified transactions for millions, boosted small businesses, provided huge convenience,
Right.
and significantly advanced financial inclusion by bringing previously unbanked individuals into the formal economy. It's a powerful demonstration of how well-designed DPI can address major societal challenges and improve quality of life.
That's a really concrete benefit you can see. What else should governments be doing, according to the sources?
Accelerating R&D and fostering collaboration are key.
Yeah.
Governments need to invest in research within their own institutions to study trends, model future labor markets, innovate with AI responsibly. And they also need to promote partnerships across different sectors, public, private, education, nonprofits, to pool expertise and drive innovation together. It can't just be government alone.
And finally, there was this idea of creating what they termed future-ready governments. What does that entail?
Yes, this basically means rethinking organizational goals and aligning incentives to build a motivated, efficient public workforce that's prepared for rapid change.
How do you do that?
India's Mission Karmayogi was cited as an example here. It's a national program focused on building civil service capacity. It shifts from old rule-based training to more role-based learning focused on developing actual competencies,
Okay.
providing continuous learning paths, encouraging collaboration across departments. It's about making the workforce more agile and skilled.
These sound like significant systemic changes required for institutions just to keep pace.
They are.
And for you, listening, this means the services and infrastructure you rely on every day, they're part of this transformation too. Their ability to adapt is increasingly important for everyone.
That's right.
So, okay, we've taken a deep dive into the stack of sources. We've seen AI's incredible potential, particularly in revolutionizing content creation, but immediately run into the serious challenges it presents with inherent bias and the risk to information integrity.
Yeah, the flip side.
We've also explored its broader impact on the future of work, highlighting that big shift in required skills and the critical role public institutions must play in navigating these changes.
And I think the overriding message, pulling it all together from these sources, is that while AI is profoundly transformative, automating many routine tasks,
Yeah.
the future increasingly values human-centric skills.
Yeah.
Complex cognition, creativity, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The things AI still really struggles to genuinely replicate.
So navigating this future successfully requires what? An agile mindset and commitment to continuous learning to adapt our own skills.
Definitely those things.
Yeah.
And maybe also a willingness to understand and collaborate with AI rather than seeing it purely as a threat or a replacement.
It's a complex, fast-moving picture, that's for sure, with significant implications for all of us.
Absolutely.
And it leaves us with a lot to ponder, doesn't it? Here's a final thought for you. If AI can generate content with incredible efficiency and consistency, but inherently struggles with genuine emotion and is prone to amplifying human biases embedded in its data, how do you decide what voices and what creations truly hold value and trustworthiness in this new digital age?